Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 271 with Brent Sanger. And I specifically went out to try and find somebody to help me to understand the current DOT, let's just call it the DOT things. I thought I was very competent about 30 years ago in it, and I'm pretty sure that a couple things have changed, along with a little bit of a cultural change where I can't say that drugs is common out there, but there's a lot of states that are passing laws that you can do it and they will not enforce it. So that, to me, that adds in some challenges with the drug and alcohol testing. Brett, could you take a couple seconds and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, certainly. Um, I've been involved in transportation safety for almost 9 years now, directly. Long history before that of being a driver myself, the Army, the fire service, and then over the road. I've had my CDL since 2000. So I've been, like I said, I've been doing this a little while. Now, I like to tell people that I teach drivers how to be safe on the road because that's pretty much what I do. I'm a frontline coach, and the drivers that I work with are appreciative of my knowledge, the fact that I have been on the road and understand what they're going through. That gives me the credibility. And of course, as most drivers know, having a CDL in your pocket is always a nice ace to have.
Oh, yes, yes. I think that that's the one thing that I did not bring to the table is I did not have any experience in doing driver's things. I didn't know how to do the physical. I didn't understand the rules. I've never taken the test. I've never driven a big truck. So I had a very big learning curve to get where people would actually say, okay, I get it from him. So you did a really good job of diving in and just getting that buy-in from people. So
Mhm.
I think what I'd like to discuss today are really four specific topics. And of course, if we deviate, we deviate. But I'd like to talk about the DOT physicals,
Okay.
the hours of service,
Mhm.
drug and alcohol testing, and then the interstate versus the intrastate. When we look at the hours and all the different exemptions that you can get for very specialized things
Yeah.
out there. So let's go ahead and dive right into the DOT physicals.
Okay. Um, I just took mine in May, as a matter of fact, to renew.
Mhm.
I'm one of the fortunate ones that even at my age, I'm still able to qualify for a 2 year card. But there's a lot of things that can get you kicked down to a 1 year card or even a 3 month card. Um,
Wow.
Wearing glasses and hearing aids is not an automatic reason to get a 1 year card because a lot of people have those. I myself obviously wear glasses. I do wear hearing aids as well, and I can still pass my physical with no problem. If you have like high blood pressure, if you have diabetes, um, some doctors will push sleep apnea, some won't.
Mhm.
Depends on the clinic. I'm not exactly sure where DOT stands on the sleep apnea rule right now. I haven't seen anything on it for a while, and I don't get the medical examiner's manual and take a look at it. So I'm looking at things just from the driver's point of view where that's concerned. But once you start down the road of a 1 year card, you're pretty much going to stay with that for the rest of your career.
Wow. Well, I know that from a like societal standpoint, we have had a increase in things like diabetes, high blood pressure, and all that. And part of it, of course, is just because as humans, we just live a whole lot longer. There's more sedentary lifestyles out there and that kind of stuff too. So,
And being an over the road truck driver is actually the worst because you're sitting in one spot for 11 hours a day,
mhm.
and that it gets very hard on the body. Truck drivers as a whole tend to be overweight, um, more health problems than the norm. So having a good physical is something that really helps. Of course, getting in touch with your own personal physician on a regular basis too, in addition to your DOT physical, that helps keep things in check. So I'm
Right.
pretty lucky where that's concerned.
Okay. Good, good, good. I've always wondered about like vibration on the really big trucks. You know, do you feel a certain, how can I even put it, a certain different level of vibration, kind of dependent on the load that you're hauling and the road you're driving?
Well, you don't necessarily feel a vibration
Huh.
because with the modern trucks now, you have air ride seats, which does a really good job insulating you from the road. Most little tiny bumps you don't even feel. The suspension systems on trucks has gotten a lot better than when I was in the Army. Of course, in the Army, the truck I was driving was older than I was. I basically sat on a box and was holding a plastic encased steel ring that didn't adjust.
Right, right, right,
No
exactly.
armrest, no nothing. So going from that to driving a Freightliner Cascadia is a world of difference. You have air ride seats that you can adjust, lumbar support, the back tilts. So you can get yourself very comfortable in the seat. And that also has a negative effect in some parts because you do get disconnected. Um, you get more comfortable behind the wheel. You start suffering from what I call highway hypnosis, speed adaptation. You don't realize how fast you're going because it's so smooth you don't really feel it. And then you go to get off at an exit, you think your speed is fine where you're at, yet you're 15, 20 miles an hour above what is safe for that exit. And when you have situations like that, things happen
Right, right, right. Well, and trucks also have that higher center of gravity, and
much higher.
sometimes it's not always centered. It could be like a low left, a low right, and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff
All
too.
depends on how it's loaded.
So, and I guess if you're doing, now this is just me with speculation, if you're doing some kind of a tanker, it almost seems like if the tanker's full, it's probably easier than if the tanker's not full when you think about sloshing, even though it kind of has like those baffles and all that stuff.
Depends on the load.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're hauling like chemicals, flammable liquids, yes, you can have baffles in there. But again, you're still limited by the maximum allowable gross weight on the highway. So you may not have a completely full truck.
Ah, right.
And if you're hauling food grade materials like milk, that's just a solid aluminum cylinder there. There's absolutely nothing in there. And that's because of hygiene regulations. If there's baffles in there, there may be a spot where it doesn't get cleaned as well. Bacteria starts growing and it contaminates the load.
Interesting.
So it has to be able to be completely cleaned out, which is why there's no baffles in it. So food grade is definitely a lot harder to haul than, say, gasoline,
Hmm.
um, or even some chemicals. And again, like there's some corrosive liquids out there that they weigh 16 pounds per gallon, whereas gasoline is like 6 pounds per gallon. Everything is relative to water, which is 8 1/3 pounds per gallon. So that all plays into it too.
Right, 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 right. Wow, I didn't know that about the food grade stuff, but it makes perfect sense because those trucks are really difficult to get clean. And in a perfect world, you would just take it from point A to point B, put the same thing in it as quick as possible, and go back. But that doesn't happen. Mhm.
No, it doesn't. It's got to get cleaned between loads.
Right, exactly, exactly. I like to think the milk that I'm drinking is safe. So good. That's yeah, 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 that's good. So
Mhm.
hey, let's switch gears and talk about hours of
Certainly.
service because it
Okay.
seems like with a really nice truck, you can really drive for a long time and maybe it's very smooth. I have a friend and I'm not going to say the name of the car, but this thing is so smooth. I sit inside that seat and I will fall asleep so fast. And that darn, it just kind of hugs you just right. And you're like,
Hmm.
man, I could not drive that on like an actual trip. I think I would just get sleepy and have to stop a few times.
When I drove, I was that way. I generally would stop about every couple hours, get out,
Mhm.
go to the bathroom, walk for a couple of minutes, and then get back in and keep going.
Mhm.
But there's guys out there, they start their day, they don't stop until they have to take their mandatory break, which was something DOT put in place in 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In 2020, they changed the regulations a lot.
Mhm.
The biggest one was I like to jokingly call it the federally mandated 30-minute union break.
Mm.
But it's a 30-minute break. It has to be taken after the eighth hour of coming on duty. And I think it was either last year or year before they made a change to that to where it's the eighth hour of driving, not necessarily
Ah,
coming on
duty,
duty.
right. Okay,
Because you can
gotcha.
come on duty, sit for a couple of hours before you start driving. So you've only driven for 6 hours and then you have to stop and take a break.
Right.
Well, they changed where if you get your 30-minute break after 8 hours of driving. Initially, you had to take it, you had to either be off duty or in the sleeper berth. Well, now they changed it at the same time, they changed it from on duty to driving hours to where if you pull up, say you're fueling up
Hmm.
and you spend 15 minutes fueling up, you're on duty doing that, pull forward, go off duty for 15 minutes, go into the store, go to the bathroom real fast, get your fuel receipt if you need it, a quick snack, and then get back in your truck. That's your 30-minute break because you are technically out of the truck.
Right, right, right. Well,
Right.
that was going to be my follow-up question is there's a lot of trucks that don't have a sleeper. So
Right.
what do you do then? Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Like
Gotcha.
day cabs. Yeah. Ideally, what they wanted with the 30-minute break was you get out of the truck,
Hmm.
get away from it, take a quick walk, stretch, whatever, so that you rejuvenate yourself. There's times where I would pull over in a rest area or something, take my 30-minute break. I'd go back in the sleeper and catch a quick nap.
Hmm.
A 20-minute power nap does wonders some days.
Oh yeah. Mm.
And then get back on the road and finish out my day. That's one change they made. Another change that they made in 2020 was they added additional time and additional distance to the short haul rule. Short haul rule used to be it was a 100 air mile circle from where you started your day. Like if you're a local delivery driver, which is what I deal with on a daily basis now.
Hmm.
So they start every day at a warehouse. They go out, make deliveries, come back to the warehouse at the end of the day. It used to be short haul drivers only were allowed 12 hours a day. Well, now they're allowed up to 14. Um, Whether it's driving or on duty, it's still a 14-hour day because they have a 150 air mile
Ah,
radius
okay.
around from their point their origin. And those were things that were brought in because the short haul drivers, it got to be a bit rough because there were a lot of times guys would have to drive 120 miles to pick up their load and come back to the warehouse or deliver a load. And so those guys would end up having to go on a logbook all the time, and it made things rough for the guys. They started to stop in the same place every day. They ran a day cab
Hmm.
as opposed to a sleeper. And so giving them more time to work meant more freight could be moved, more distance to go. Because you drive out 150 miles, you drive back 150 miles. That's 300 miles. That's a pretty good day in a day cab.
Right.
So that helped. Another thing that they did was they gave a little bit more options with what's referred to as the split sleeper berth. It used to be you were only allowed to do an 8-2 sleeper berth split, which meant you had to do 2 hours off duty and then 8 hours in sleeper berth. Well, they increased it a little bit, and you could do up to 3 hours either off duty or sleeper berth. Then the rest of it, the other 7 hours of your 10-hour break, had to be registered as sleeper berth. It gives you a little more flexibility. The way I
Hmm.
used to explain it to guys, um, when I drove over the road, there was never a day that went by that I didn't drive through a big city somewhere on the interstates.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the example I would always use is I-10 through Texas. Well, we all know I-10 through Texas is a 2-day trip
Hmm.
because it's 887 miles. But when you get over on the east side of the state, there's this little tiny town called Houston.
Hmm.
And Houston can be a nightmare. And if you start out in, say, San Antonio that morning, or east of San Antonio, for example, you're going along. Just west of Houston is the town of Katy, Texas, and it's probably where the widest section is in most lanes of interstate in the U.S. is. You've got express lanes, you've got the local lanes, and I forget how many lanes wide it is, but it's huge. Starting at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon till about 6, 7 o'clock at night, it's a parking lot.
Hmm.
So you come into Katy. What is wrong with pulling into a truck stop, taking your 3 hour break to do a split sleeper berth that lets you reset your clock a little bit, give you more drive hours so that you can finish out your day and get to the other side of Houston and maybe all the way into Louisiana, depending on how many hours you got.
Hmm.
That way, you don't run into the possibility of running out of drive hours sitting in traffic in Houston, which means getting out of there, you're going to have to you'll get a log violation. Because there's another thing that goes hand in hand with that, and that's the adverse driving conditions rule. And it's predominantly weather related, which is because of all of the technology advances, and that one's getting harder to be able to justify. But if you run into a collision on the highway and it shuts the highway down for hours, that is justifiable because that was not known to you or your dispatcher at the start of your drive shift,
Right.
which is how the rule is calculated.
Hmm.
So if you're just a driver that jumps in your truck and takes off, and halfway through your day you run into a blizzard, okay, that's your fault. You didn't check the weather before you took off. You know it's winter. You're driving across Wyoming. Guess what? Winter happens out there because there's nothing to stop the wind, and it's going to pick up the snow, and you're going to see past the end of your hood if you're lucky. So adverse conditions is pretty much accidents, emergency road construction that wasn't there, like all of a sudden a pothole appears in the road. You're not going to know about that. Well, not necessarily a pothole, but a sinkhole.
Hmm.
You're not going to know about that at the start of your day unless it was there the day before. But even then, it's still kind of hard. So, but with the adverse conditions, heavy traffic in a big city has never been an allowable adverse condition. You know, it's a big city. You know, there's heavy traffic. If you don't properly plan for it, that's your fault. You
Hmm.
can't use adverse conditions to get away with that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's where using the split sleeper berth comes in handy. You pull in, say, about 4:30, take 3 hours at 7:30. By then, most of the traffic will have kind of died down, and you'll be able to get through the town a little easier. At least that's how I would teach guys, and they were like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
Right, 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 right. And you can use other strategies like moving things at night if you have that
Mhm.
flexibility. That's not always a option out there too, of course.
No, driving at night is um, that takes training.
Hmm.
It takes experience. And even then, you still have the possibility of falling asleep at the wheel.
Yep, 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 exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's interesting that you brought up that little town of Katy because like I lived there back in the 80s and it was like a little sleepy farming town and
Mm-hmm.
nothing ever happened out there. And I went through a couple of years ago and I was like, whoa, look at this place now. I
Yeah,
know. So yeah,
it's insane.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's something. Hey, so we have just a couple of minutes left, so
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna have a chance to really cover everything, but could you do real fast talk about the drug and alcohol testing that's in
Yeah.
effect now?
All right. Drug and alcohol testing is still a federal thing. Doesn't matter what the states do. If you're a CDO holder and you drive a commercial vehicle, you are held to the federal standard. So if the state legalizes marijuana, that's fine. The state can do that. But if you're driving a truck, you're still held to the federal standards. It's illegal. The same applies to CBD oil. CBD oil and marijuana, which CBD is derived from marijuana,
Hmm.
they metabolize in the body the same way. And what the test looks for is those metabolites.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So the test can't differentiate between the two. And under current regulations from the Office of Drug and Alcohol Policy, there's no medicinal value to CBD oil, at least none that can be justified on a drug test.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you use CBD oil for your joints, which from the people I've talked to, it works well um, to help with inflammation and things like that, you're still going to come up positive on a test, which means you have to go into the substance abuse program. And until you get it done, you can't drive.
Right, right, right. So I guess in that scenario, a person is using almost like a let's call it a outside the body a lotion of some sort then.
Mm-hmm.
So does it also come in some kind of a pill form too?
I believe so. Well, it's an oil, so they'll like use it
Oh, okay.
as drops. I think they make gummies with it.
Oh, okay.
Um, I've never done it myself,
Mm-hmm.
just or even looked into it. This is just from people that I've talked to.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so, but yeah, and it frustrates drivers. Like it's not supposed to have THC in it. It metabolizes the same, and the test doesn't care.
Right, right, right. And I would also think that you would let's say that you find somebody who really cares, who's really trying. There's a lot of different brands out there. So if it
Mhm.
really doesn't have that regulation behind it, you could have people who really think they're doing a good job and they're not doing a good job, of course. You know.
Yeah, I've run into a couple of those.
Hmm.
But those are also the same people that will jump on the substance abuse program, um, go through that like they're supposed to, and get back in the truck to keep doing their job. They like, oh, I didn't know. Okay, use this as a learning experience and go forward from there.
Right, 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 right. I tell you what, we have to stop for today's episode, but in taking a couple of notes, I think what I want to cover the next time, if this was a positive experience, of course, the
Mm-hmm.
intrastate versus the interstate. So I also wanted to talk about the pre and post inspections out
Okay.
there then. Um, okay, and then I guess as funny as it sounds, if we could just do a little bit of this is why th- this is why that we have a CDL out there. You know, maybe we'll talk about weights and that kind of stuff then, just to
Mm-hmm.
kind of help the audience to know why that we have those out there. Because
Certainly.
I'm sure that people have been on the interstate and thought, well, how come that gigantic moving truck is not pulling over, but the other trucks are, you know? How come that
Mm-hmm.
RV that's gigantic is not pulling over? You know, just those types of things. Then, so
Oh, gladly. I'd be more than willing to talk about this again at some other time.
very good, very good. Before that we go, could you let folks know how they can find you out there, connect with you if they're if they need to talk to you
Mhm.
about DOT stuff, or just kind of, and just to help out to help out the audience.
Certainly.
Hmm.
The easiest way to get a hold of me is to go on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
do a search for my profile, and just send me a message.
Hmm.
I'd be more than happy to talk with you. Of course, I am working, so if I don't get back to you immediately, don't think I'm ignoring you, but I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Right, exactly. It's hard to picture that we still have jobs still, but just because we've taken time out of our busy day to sit down and do this, of course,
Yeah.
So,
And speaking of what you just said,
hmm.
safety is one job that AI will never completely replace.
Oh
You still
yeah.
have to have a human touch.
Right. Yes. I I am telling folks that we have to be better than AI, because anybody could type something in and say,
Mhm.
but the answer is this. But if you don't really understand the background, and there's always going to be that nuance out there. It's never going to be a 100% black and white issue and all that kind of stuff then. So, oh yeah, I think that
Exactly.
as safety folks, we are perfectly fine with this whole thing, coming
Yes,
up.
sir.
So, Brett, let's go ahead there and wrap it up today. I want to
Okay.
thank everybody for joining me today. Um, my name is Dr. David Ayers. Thank you and have a safe day.